Hi there, welcome to the Inner Circle. I'm your host Scrivo, and it's been a while. I'm not going to lie, I haven't done a video for a while because I found that sometimes you get to a certain point and once you've done a video about new datasheet for a drop pod, you're kind of stuck in a corner. So I hadn't really been playing as much with my Darkangels, so I didn't really have much to say, and I don't like just going, here's what's doing well at events and exploring that. So I figured I'd rest it for a bit. So I'm back. I'm doing a nice little video for you here, and it is Darkangels at the LGT. So I am going to the LGT, I'm going to take Darkangels. So this video is exploring why and why not, reading the room, so looking at what I'm expecting to see there and what my decisions will be based on that, and then what my goals are, and then how I'm approaching achieving those goals. So this is very much the process of if I'm going to any sort of super major, this is how I would approach if I'm not just rushing myself and not thinking about it. This is how I think it can help, kind of giving these kind of thoughts and at least considering it, rather than just kind of turn up with the list that does all right at my local RTTs, because the field's going to be a bit broader, so it's a bit different. Right, so let's get to it. So this is my first LGT after, I think it's 2 years, because last year I was going to go play the narrative. I ended up getting roped into helping run it, which was a great experience, really enjoyed it, but it meant that on top of that, I'd run a lot of events. I'd been running events as part of 6++. I've run invitationals for the 6++ team. So I looked at it and I think I calculated it's probably about 10 events I've run in the last 12 months. At least, and that in itself means I've not got to play as much, and then to kind of compound on that, I've been prepping for WTC, so I've been looking at lists and armies in very different ways because it's team formats, and then as a result I've not played because in the run up to that there was a lot of things like me prepping things, and it wasn't necessarily the place for me to go and investigate and spend time playing singles games, which is fine, but it was a decision I made, and it came at the cost of probably getting to play as much as I'd like. But this year will be different is the hope. Right, so why? So Darkangels have been the majority focus for this edition for me. Every time I get pulled into trying my orcs, they then nerf it to the point where it's then not particularly a competitive option / not too broken, and it becomes kind of a bit of a wet squib, and it's not as exciting. Also, I found that when I've enjoyed playing with Darkangels, I can kind of shine a little bit, and finding my joy of having advanced fallback in charge Darkangels has been great fun, especially when I've gone to team events, like going to the last ITT I went to, being able to just go and run headlong into stuff screaming and kind of pressure people has been great fun. So I just want to build on that. The alternatives I have is, like, if I'm not taking Darkangels, I take my orcs. I haven't played them much since the beginning of the year, so it'd be starting from scratch, and I feel like with a month to go it'd be a bit of a rush. Same with World Eaters. I'm really enjoying painting up my World Eaters at the moment. I'm slowly getting there, but with a month run up and some reps, I think I'll struggle. It's an army I've been trying to build and paint since the transition to 9th edition, before they even had a book, so it's one of those ones that I'm just like, yeah, I'll get to them when I get to them, and it'll be good fun when they are there, and I look forward to probably doing more videos about them as well, which will be great fun. Right, so why not? So the reasons I kind of originally was thinking maybe not to take the Darkangels is it's an earlier book. They're in a bit of a kind of, the stats say they're not in a great place at the moment comparatively. Like, there are some builds that are working. It's things like, I've seen Company of Hunters is doing quite well. There's people taking Wrath of the Rock. I found Wrath of the Rock works. It's a really good list, kind of detachment style. It's not necessarily for me. It's quite a different play style to what I enjoy. Having to be kind of reactive to other people is all well and good. Like, having things like Leonine Aggression is great until someone's shooting at you, and then you're not getting to utilize those cool tricks. And I found that a bit of a shame. So I'm probably looking at doing my advance in charge, fallback in charge shenanigans with Stormlance, because I've enjoyed that. It feels comfy. It's like wearing a nice comfy pair of slippers that sometimes you just do it and you're like, cool, yeah, I know where I am here, and I can just focus on my micro movements and have fun with it. And remember, this is what this stuff's better be, right? I'm supposed to go to this event and have fun and not stress myself out. And that's why I'm trying to stick to something I've been playing a lot, because then I'm not burning myself out worrying about if I've got stuff to deal with things. So speaking of that, reading the room. So Death Guard have had a bit of a points nudge. So have Knights. Knights have got their book on the horizon. That's looking pretty nasty. Like, assaulting Knights running into my deployment zone. Great. we're probably getting it a slate, maybe this week, maybe next week. It might impact. If it does, I'll react to it. I've got enough Darkangel stuff that if I need to just adjust things or add things, great. Outside of the big threat of the big chassis, the Titanic guys, I feel like we're probably going to see quite a lot of power armor and stuff that can deal with power armor. I found that these lists in practice I've been trying, I can deal with Death Guard. If I need to deal with squishy stuff like elves with just loads of invuns, fine. I might struggle with things like Chaos Cults or something a bit more kind of hoardy, but I can't be perfect, right, as a list. But I feel pretty happy with the kind of the playstyle at the moment. But that's where I am at the moment. Like, I'm going to be reactive, so if something changes, I can adapt without having to start from scratch. Whilst if I'll say painting my World Eaters and I suddenly realised I needed to paint a whole nother unit, or a unit was so underwhelming now that I needed to swap it for something else, I then don't have to go back and paint something else, which is great. Right, so the approach. I'm spending the time honing my list. So at the moment, I'm on my 5th iteration of my list already. I started writing these slides about 2 weeks ago, and I've already gotten in plenty of games. I've made the kind of the challenge to myself that I want to play through the lists. I want it to be a list that I understand where it can go, where it deploys. So that's the big thing. I found my biggest weakness is if I haven't played on a map since maps have had a change up or something like that. If I don't know where my units should go, that's the biggest thing, because the time it takes me to correct those, especially, it's not so bad with Stormlance because everything can move quite quickly, but it's that correctional thing of like, oh gosh, I need something in this place to do this thing. Like, it's not as bad as it used to be when it's like, I don't have something set up to do containment turn 1. Great, I'm a potato. But my logic is I've played through, I think I've done 4 of the missions so far. I know where things should go. I know how to adjust it. And what I've been also doing is looking at how other Marines players are kind of forming their lists. So interestingly enough, I've seen that there's the Black Templars approach of lots of repulsor executioners with some of their nasty combat melee guys. If we see Emperor's Children, there'll be a lot of power armor dudes. I know exactly what I feel like I'm going to be facing into, and because I'm really just trying to push myself to just get the most out of myself, I had signed up and I've had a coaching call with Tom from 6 Plus, my buddy Tom, who ironically one of his earliest club games was playing me, and he has overshot me, and it's a really proud thing I get to see is that he has pushed really well. He played for Team England this year at WTC, and so getting someone like that has a really good handle of the game to just give you some advice, if it's just one of your club mates, or if you need to, contact someone to do some coaching. And I've done that, and I think it's really nice because it was reaffirming. It made me kind of go, okay, those decisions I was making, but why was I making those decisions in my list, and kind of going through stuff. And when we went through my list, it wasn't far off where I'd envisaged. Tom had some feedback, some feedback that I just hadn't spotted, because fun enough, my awareness of what other people are up to is probably not as wide. And it was kind of, we both agreed that the list very much plays up to my strengths. I like playing lots of crunchy little melee where I do lots of things. I've got reactive move shenanigans, I've got transports. It feels like an army that I get to play my arse off with. I may not win a game, but I'll feel like I've at least given it a good damn go. So yeah, and let's have a look. So what I've also found is quite often, one of my favourite stories when I look back at some of my early events, I was trying to like push with my orcs, where I was kind of hitting that kind of pushing into the 4-1 category. I went to an event where it was, I think it was the end of 8th, where there was the Space Marine 2 book, and it was like, oh, it's the boogeyman. I'm gonna tailor my list to deal with it. And I didn't play Space Marines that whole weekend, and it was really frustrating, because my army probably was worse off because it was tailored too much to be dealing with power armor and not enough dealing with things like Custodies that I faced instead, or Drakari. And you can tell, like, I'm not very good quite often at remembering specific details of an event, like who I played and stuff, but I can tell you that one because it really burned in my memory, because it was just like, oh cool, I've played into a lovely Tau player, and I've just got a lot of stuff that's good at killing power armor. Great, cool. But as a result, my list, I think, it's got enough stuff in it to do different styles of damage, mortal wounds, things like maybe some Stern Guard. And then some fun jank as well. So let's go into it. So let's look at the list. So this is the draft list. This is version 4 currently. It's probably not going to end up like this, but it's got Azrael as my warlord. He is leading a unit of 5 Stern Guard veterans. They are all with bolt rifles, and there is the heavy bolter in there. So they've got the lovely, if I'm shooting the oath target, they'll have rerolls to wound, which they then give to Azrael as well, which is the real flavour there because he's got dev wounds on his gun and his sword, and it's really nice to have that in there. I find that sometimes just elevates a character like him. They're very much like a secondary strike unit, or they're kept far back and probably near something like one of the repulsors. I'll get into that later on why. I really enjoy this as a unit that kind of it picks its battles. It doesn't need to be thrown forward, because I found if I use Azrael too aggressively, you lose your CP farm, and I can be quite CP hungry at times. And I'm not talking about CP rerolls. There's a lot of the shenanigans, like the reactive move of Stormlance is very important to how I play, I found. Then I've got Judicia with the reroll advances enhancement, leading the 6 Inner Circle Companions, which are in one of the repulsors normally. The logic here is that I don't need the Librarian if they're in a repulsor, or if they're near a repulsor, someone charges them, they've got fights first, they're probably not charging them. If they do, I can get back in the repulsor because of its data sheet ability. Then we've got the Lieutenant with the combi weapon, another reactive move guy, quite often sitting 6 inches from the middle. But the way I've been positioning him in the last few games is that he will just, if someone tries to come too close, they come within 9, he hops in, takes one of those spare seats in the repulsor, and is relatively safe. Then we've got 5 intercessors, gives me my home objective as sticky. Then they've got their heavy and assault bolt rifles and a auxiliary grenade launcher. They're just running around peppering 20 shots into stuff that doesn't want to get peppered. And then normally they'll get onto one of the sort of flank objectives and hopefully tie it up a little bit. They tend to not stick around most of the game, but I find that they do have a role, and as long as they've got my objective at home tagged, I'm fine. Then 2 jump pack intercessor units, again really nice for kind of cutting those flanks. They can go in the repulsor if I need to. This is a thing I'd missed. They just take up 2 spots. I really like having a unit of these on the board just so they can go onto one of my flanks and really kind of, if there's scouts already on my expansion objective, having them jump on and secure it, especially if the scouts have taken some damage to maybe flip the point, great. Then I've got a unit of 5 Reavers. I quite often keep these near the middle so that they are deterring people, because if they get to being on the objective themselves, they make people within 3 of them -1 OC, which I found surprisingly enough does come up. I did like it with the Reaver Lieutenant, as I did say on the podcast last week, but unfortunately I had to cut some of the kind of the niceties out of the list, make it a bit leaner, so he did go. They still do a great job, and them having the reactive move where they can ignore vertical distance means, especially on the new UKTC boards where there's giant big ruins in the middle, they can go upwards. They can have some real fun times. And I really enjoy that sort of shenanigans. Then we've got Ballista's Dread, which, nice bit of honest kind of firing lines. You just go, right, if you stick anything too far out, or this guy, he's just going to guard this area. And it's not what they do, it's more what they could do. It's the threat. People are scared of that. Then we've got 2 units of Deathwing Knights. I've been putting 1 in a repulsor, depending on what my matchup is. They don't need to. It's more often than not that they can just get out, and it's an extra 3 inches further they'll be. The other unit I quite often put in so I can rapid ingress them, whether it's on my flank or just boosting up. And using the teleport Homer for them is really cool, because then it keeps that CP spending down. Then we got the 2 repulsors. I found that I dance around these, so keeping all the units kind of relatively close to each other. So you're not having this situation where if someone charges or comes too close to one of these units, you think, oh, they've come up, he's moved a unit, and he's already moved stuff so that I can be shot at. I don't want this unit to be threatened. I'm within 3 of this repulsor. I'm getting back in with my reactive move. Like, or they happen to be all within 6. So you either go, I'm doing my flat 6-inch reactive move, or 5 for the Deathwing Knights, and getting in. Like, as long as they finish within embarkation range, it's fine. And I really like that. Like, it becomes a situation where you don't have to rely on just the repulsor's ability, because it's cute. Don't get me wrong. Being able to, if someone charges you, jump into a transport is great, but you have to be at the right distance from the transport, and they have to be charging you. The minute you're going someone that's shooting you, not so useful. Then we got the classic scouts. This stops me being blocked in, whether it's straight across the middle, and if I'm going second, they just scout back to safety. And I find it as a list, I really would like maybe another unit of something kind of chaffy kind of thing, but I'm enjoying the 2 repulsors because it's 3 las cannons, 2 hunter slayer missiles, which are indirect. I keep catching people out was going, yeah, they're indirect, but still miss with them like hunter killer. They always bloody miss unless they're going into an oath target, and then they fail to wound if they're going to the oath target, as is tradition. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this. I think at the moment I'm on 3 wins and a loss with the list in kind of practice at the moment. I lost into a MSU Blood Angels list, which it was spicy, it really hurt. It had the tools to deal with me. I don't think I played it awfully, but I know where I could go differently on it. And I should have had an alright game because I was going second on Purge, but I just didn't. So, one to kind of look back at. But yeah, right. So what next? So the goals. So I want to be well practiced with the list. So at the moment I've got, I think, in all the different iterations, I'm on 8 games now. So I'm pretty happy with that. Deployments, I want to make sure I've deployed and practiced deploying the final submitted list on all of the maps so that I know where's safe, where's not safe, where I can get to from specific areas, because looking at the secondary cards and going, oh, I can't do that one because I've not deployed correctly, it's the most frustrating thing possible. And I'm going to just avoid that. And then I want to win more than I lose. So 3-2 feels like a lovely goal, but I really do want to push and get that 4-1. But a lot of that may not be down to my actual skill. It could be just the luck of the draws as well. So pairing into someone that's much, much bigger the threat than me, or just a horrible matchup, you never know. I could be really lucky. You never know. I'm probably owed a good run because I've had some stonkers, like going up to Manchester and playing an England player first round is just always the one, right? It's the best. I love it. Right. So what's next? So after the submission, I'll do my next update, because I don't really want to keep doing iterative ones of, here you go, I've changed this one unit. I don't think that helps you guys. It doesn't help me particularly, I suppose, either. So I'll do an update once I've done this submission, and I'll run through what I've gone with, why, if there's been a balanced data slate, kind of understanding where the changes have come based on that. And in 2 weeks' time, we've got the Invitational. So list submission weekend, we are hosting an Invitational at Darkfire Cafe in St Albans. I am probably going to squeak in a couple of games myself because we've got an odd number of players, potentially. So if that happens, I get some good practice with it as well, which is what the event's meant to be for. And so I'll be able to talk through that as well, because it'll be interesting to see if people are practicing their lists ready for the event, what the kind of the microcosm meta ends up being, because you never know. It could be exactly what we end up seeing lots of. Like, it could suddenly be anti-knight tech everywhere, or it could just be everyone going, sod that, let's just learn how to deal with Eldar, because they definitely do a thing, right? All those fire dragons, my god. Right, thank you guys for tuning in. Obviously, don't forget to hit like and subscribe down on the bottom. If you want to become a YouTube member, we do extra videos, lots of cool stuff, like there's a whole section in the Discord where you get to do list doctor submissions, all these kind of cool stuff as well. Of course, if you really like my stuff, I've got a coffee website. It's in the description below. You can tip me a coffee, whatever you want to do. Until next time, guys, take care.